What's going on, guys? Richard Joseph here. Now in today's video we have to rewind back a little, back in time to around the period when I was in 5th grade going into 6th grade, that transitional summer period, and talk about my favorite console of all times. So yeah, let's get into the video. Let it roll back in time. Alright, let's go. At the time, the consoles that I had a PS2 and I played the shit out of that. And I also had just gotten the DS Lite. I had just gotten this. I had the white version and I was so in love with it. Like, I played this all the time at night when my parents told me to go to bed. I was playing this. Such a great console. But around that summer transitional period, all I kept seeing on TV was PSP this, PSP that.
Step your game up, Marcus. PSP. PlayStation.
And I'm like, what is a PSP? So I went on my computer and I researched it. The PSP, oh my god, it looked just like my PS2, but portably. And my little mind could not fathom the idea that I could play PS2 titles on the go. It was just mind-blowing. And as a kid, you know, I asked my parents, can I get a PSP? They said no. They had just gotten me the DS Lite, so they said no, we'll buy you another DS Lite game, but we're not buying you another console. And I was like, oh come on, and I begged, still no. And then school started, and I had some friends that owned it, and I got to play there, and it just drove me into like wanting it more. And then I waited all the way till my birthday, and I went to EB Games, and I ended up picking up a PSP 1000 pre-owned, and it was my console, and it was just amazing. You could play music, movies, games, surf the web. And I remember I used to sit by my bed, leaning by the window, because it was by the window, and I used to like get Wi-Fi, my neighbor's Wi-Fi. I used to get my neighbor's Wi-Fi, and I used to surf the web, and it was so like crazy that I didn't have to get off of my bed, go to the living room, and turn on the desktop. I could just surf on my phone. It was just so amazing. So we're gonna take a look at a couple consoles and a couple games that I would recommend that you add to your collection, or that if you're just getting started, you should start with these games. These are some of my childhood games and some of my favorite games. So yeah, let's get into the consoles. First of all, here we have a PSP 2000. This is the metallic silver version. Now this is a faulty console. It needs a screen replacement because it has water damage. You guys can kind of tell it has a bit of water damage on the sides right here. It turns on, the screen's a little faded, but it still works. It needs a back cover for the battery. The UMD disk drive works, and I need to figure out why it's not holding a charge. But yeah, I will be making a future video on this repair video. But yeah, PSP 2000 right here. Never owned this one, but now I do. Because it was very cheap. I got it for a ridiculously low price. Then this is the newest one that added to the collection. This is a PSP 3000 in immaculate condition. This is a modded system. The games run off the SD card, and the UMD disk drive works perfectly. It's in immaculate condition, and this is the newest console to add to the collection, and I've been carrying this one around a lot. So we have that one. And then when this one came out, I remember seeing commercials for this, and I wasn't too excited. I was a little bit excited because the way it looked, but it wasn't like when I originally saw the PSP, I wasn't like, wow, I need to pick it up. I was like, oh, another version of it. Like, cool. But I wasn't picking it up because of this sole reason. Is this console, when it came out, I had so many of these UMD games and movies, and I couldn't play them on this. So it was like in my head, I'm like, nah, I'm not picking it up. Because there was no solution of, if you have the physical disc, you cannot get the virtual version of it unless you rebuy it again. I was broke, so I didn't think twice. So I ended up not picking this up. This is the PSP Go, and I picked this up 2 years after because it failed. Now, I picked it up at GameStop because EB Games was closed. There were no more EB Games around me. So I picked it up at GameStop. And I paid, I think, $40 to $60 for it. It came with everything, but it came with a generic box. So I need to find a box for it. But yeah, this is my favorite version of the PSP because just the way that it looks. Like, the way that it fits in your hands, it's just like, you want to play games on this. Like, it's so good. And it's like really nice, small, and portable. And it fits in your pocket really smooth. So yeah. This one, actually, it failed, but nowadays, these are going for a fairly expensive price. They're going for like the $200-300 mark. I've seen some. Some I've seen for $80, but if you want a really good conditioned one, you'll be shelling out $200-300. Good thing I paid mine for the low. But yeah, this is my PSP Go. Those are the consoles. Now let's take a look at a couple games. Now these are what got me into Star Wars a lot.
is a tight one in here. Star Wars Battlefront Renegade Squadron. I like that. White Darth Vader PSP. Nice unit. Collectible. That's great.
Customize your weapons better you can.
Dude, get your own Star Wars Battlefront Entertainment Pack.
PSP. These are all the Star Wars games that I own for the PSP. I am missing a couple like Battlefront 1. But yeah, we have Battlefront Elite Squadrons. So the Elite Squadrons and like just in general, the Battlefield games were such amazing games. I don't remember the storyline too much of them, but I remember being on the bus and on like the school grounds and playing multiplayer. These games are amazing for multiplayer, and recently I started replaying them, and the actual storyline is really good. So if you're a Star Wars fan and you've played the PS2 version, these are literally the portable version of them. So yeah, we have two copies of Battlefront 2 and Elite Squadrons. Such great games, even though the specs and like the graphics aren't the greatest, they still look phenomenal on the PSP. And then this one, Star Wars The Force Unleashed. I got this when it came out. I paid $40 when it came out, and it has such a great story, gameplay mechanics. This game, I beat it in one sitting. I got it the next day, and I like shoved everything out, and I played it. Completely finished this game. But yeah, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, such a great game. If you're into Star Wars, get this. If you're not into Star Wars, you could also get into this because it's its own separate storyline. So yeah, you know, Force Unleashed. And then let's move on to the shooters, because if we're talking about the PSP, we have to talk about shooters. Now, one problem with the PSP, it has one thumbstick. So shooters are a little bit difficult to play, but that doesn't mean they don't have a lot of shooters and a lot of good shooters. So yeah, this only has one thumbstick, so a lot of people thought they should have added another one here. But when it's like follow-up system came out, you know, the PS Vita, that had thumbsticks, dual thumbsticks, and gameplay. Like shooters on this is phenomenal. But yeah, this one didn't. The original PSP didn't. But it still had so many shooters that this is just some of them. It's not all of them. There's so many more. I'm gonna go over a couple. The SOCOM series. The PSP is what got me into the SOCOM series, because this is the first one that I picked up. I picked up the UMD version of it. Now I own it complete. But yeah, such great shooters. Like, this is such a phenomenal game. It has it has multiplayer 1 to 10 people. Such a great storyline, such great mechanics. The controls are amazing. SOCOM series, such a great game. Then we have the Metal Gear Solid. Now,
dear PSP, I just scored the new Metal Gear Solid, and now I can't put it down.
So what's the problem?
I'm 40 hours in.
Whoa, now that's a work week. This ain't them little kiddie games your cousins play. This is a full-size Metal Gear exclusive on your PSP.
I'm gonna finish it.
Much respect to you, dog. Other than the tie, the wrinkly shirt, the lame job, I want to be just like you one day. Step your game up. Marcus, PSP.
Now this is what got me into like tactic shooters, where there's different ways of killing the person. You don't just shoot them. You could go behind them, sneak up, and like knife them and do stuff like that. And the storyline was phenomenal. The graphics are phenomenal. For a PSP title, looks really great to this day. We have that. Then we have Rainbow Six Vegas. Now, this is such a great game. I spent hours on this, but I never had it for the PSP. I owned it for the Xbox, the original Xbox. But when I found out there's a PSP version of it, and it looks and feels just like the console version, I picked it up. And it is so many hours on this. Multiplayer capabilities, if I'm correct, yeah, you can do 2 to 4 people multiplayer. So yeah, such a great storyline. The controls are phenomenal for what the PSP could do. Then we have these two. We have the Medal of Honor Heroes, and then we also, if we're talking about shooters, we have to include a Call of Duty title. Now this is around the time where Medal of Honor and like Call of Duty were head to head. But yeah, Medal of Honor is such a great game. The graphics are great. The atmosphere, like the world around you, does really really. It does look really, really well. The storyline is great. It's a best-selling game. Like, you could find these games that I'm talking about are not these expensive, crazy games. These are affordable games. This one you can find online or at my like local retro game stores for like 10 bucks complete. So it's not expensive. Then the Call of Duty Road to Victory. I never finished this game, but I did play it, and it is really, really good. I did play multiplayer on this. It's up to 2 to 6 people. This is not the Call of Duty we know of nowadays, where like 60 people could get into one game and just have at it. This was like 2 to 6 people. This was more, not really, they weren't too concerned about multiplayer. They were more into the story and developing it and stuff like that. But yeah, such a great game. And also, it has the sticker from GameStop. It says $26.99. That's crazy. Also over here, $26.99. That's crazy. But yeah, that's that. Now let's move on to another genre, which are racing games. Now, one game that I do not own, well, I will be getting soon, is the Midnight Club LA Remix. That one was my favorite racing game. It was my first racing game for the PSP, and I recommend that one. That one, I don't know how much it goes for right now, but if I had to guess, it would be like less than $20. But here are some. I have Twisted Metal Head On. Now this is more like it's a racing game kind of, but it's more like a demolition derby kind of game where you go at it with a bunch of different players and you just fight each other with racing cars and all that. So yeah, it's a great game. Nice title. Then we have, let me move that real quick. Then we have these two. This one is Ridge Racer. Do I have to say much? Ridge Racer is such a great title. Such a great game. I never played this one growing up, but I knew friends that owned it and really played it a lot. But yeah, the graphics are phenomenal on this. And then we have Need for Speed Underground Rivals. Now this one I had growing up, but it wasn't my copy, and I only played a little bit of it. But recently, having to own this and this, I got to replay them more. And this one has great multiplayer, and not just that, it has great customizability. You could upgrade your cars, change the colors, the interior. So yeah, this is a good title, like a really good title. And so it's Ridge Racer. So racing games are great for the system. There's so many more that I have not talked about, but these are some of the ones that I own and that I recommend. Then we're going to talk about some like sports titles. We have these, which I used to be the biggest Tony Hawk game fan. I had it on PS1, I had it on Game Boy, on DS, and then when they came out on the PSP, I was mind blown about the graphics and the capabilities of the PSP. So we have two here. We have Tony Hawk Project 8. I recently just got this and I've been playing it a lot, but I didn't grow up on this, so I'm learning to play this game. But this one I grew up on. This is Tony Hawk Underground 2 Remix. Now I had this for the DS and I had it for the PSP. But the PSP version is just way better. Just all the maps that they have, some of the glitches that you can do. Just, if you're into like Tony Hawk games, 100% on top of my list would be this one. And it's not fairly inexpensive. I paid $6 for this, and yes, it is complete for $6 at my retro game store. Like, that's crazy. This one's a little more expensive, around like the $10 to $15 range, but still very accessible. So we have those. Then we have this. Now this was surprising. I did not know there was a Ratchet & Clank game for the PSP. I knew there was a Daxter game, and that's the one that I grew up on, but I have to recommend this one because it's just a great game. Replaying this, it's such a great game. And this originally came out for the PS2. And I owned it for the PS2, if I remember correctly. I owned it for the PS2 and I loved it so much. But we have, you know, Ratchet & Clank. This is more like a, what do you call this? This is like a story-driven game, platformer, 3D world environmental game. But yeah, Ratchet & Clank, and I own this, and it is complete. Actually, this is such a great title that I own 2 copies of it. So yeah, it's such a great title. I own 2 copies of this. I am going to be selling a lot of my games that I have doubles of on Mercari. So I'll leave my Mercari link down below in the description if you want to go check out my store and see what I have. But yeah, I have 2 copies of this, and I do recommend you picking this game up. And it doesn't go for much. These games go for like complete. They go for around like $30 to like $20-ish, but It is a great title, and it is literally the portable version of it, which is mind-blowing. That you get a PS2 game, a full PS2 game on a little UMD disc. That's just crazy to me. And now, the last one that I want to include, and I want to include two of them, but I do not own the PSP version of the other one, but I have to include them, is the PSP versions of GTA games. Now, this is GTA Vice City Stories. Now, this is not the one that I grew up on, but I didn't get this one till I had my PSP Go. That's when I started playing this, but I had friends that owned it, and I played a little bit of it, but I never had my own copy. But Vice City Stories, it's literally Vice City on the PSP. The world atmosphere felt so alive. All the graphics, everything just looks so good. And here we have it, you know, PSP, Grand Theft Auto. And I was just mind blown that you could get GTA games on the go. Nowadays, is my phone ringing? Oh, sorry. Someone just called me, messaged me. But yeah, Grand Theft Auto, Vice City Stories, like getting a PSP game, let alone GTA on the PSP is just mine. Nowadays, you can download GTA 3, Vice City, San Andreas on your phone and like that. But at the time, there was no such thing as that for a portable console. And yeah, we have this one, and then the one that I grew up, which I do not own for the PSP, but I have for the PS2. This is Grand Theft Auto Liberty City Stories. Now, this one I grew up on, and oh my god, I finished this game entirely. I finished it completely on the PSP in like a couple of sittings. Like in like 3 days, I completely finished it, and I still play it to this day. But I have it on the PS2 right now, so there's that. But yeah, the PSP was such a powerful console. Now let me know in the comments down below, because look at all these titles that we have here. We talked about so many different genres of games. That's how you know that I love the PSP. Now let me know in the comments, do you have any memories with the PSP? And was the PSP or is the PSP your favorite console? Did you actually like the DS better than the PSP? Because technically the DS Lite sold more consoles than the PSP. But in my heart, the PSP is better. That's just my opinion. But yeah. Let me know. Do you have any memories about it? Did you own one growing up? Did you know someone that owned one? Did you want one as badly as I did? So yeah, this was like my PSP, kind of like a buying guide, kind of. So yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. I am out, Retro Joseph, saying peace.